Hi, I'm James from Chaosium. When I sat down with David Larkins, the line editor for Pendragon, we spoke about what it was like for him to step in and take over the Pendragon line, and also about the experience and qualities that he brings as a new line editor for the game series. I'm going to jump across to that interview in just a moment, but first, please remember to subscribe to the Chaosium YouTube channel. It really helps us out, and it lets us make more content like this. Thanks.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting one for sure. I connected with Greg, gosh, about 7 years ago, I suppose. Yeah, it was 2014. He was just looking for some volunteers to proofread, something he was working on, and I saw his call on the forums, and I was like, oh, sure, And at the time, I was kind of thinking about getting into the world of role playing game writing. So, I just thought, hey, this was a great opportunity. And it just kind of, rolled on from there, working on stuff for him, like feedback. He had what he referred to as his household, which is, is this sort of inner circle of people that he would bounce ideas off of and who would contribute material and so forth. And I've retained, most of those folks going forward into sixth edition, which has been a tremendous help. I like to say, like, we're sort of the Gestalt version of Greg's brain. Like all of us have our various, specialties, and so together we kind of equal Greg's, imagination and ability. I kept working on projects with him, and then in 2018, June 2018, I get this call at like 12:30 a.m. And it's Greg Stafford. I'm like, well, that can't be right. So, I just, sent it the voicemail, and then like I get a voicemail. I'm like, okay. So I listen to it, and Greg's like, oh, hey, hey, David, I just want to ask you a question. You can call me back in the morning if you're asleep. So I call him back right away, of course, and he goes, yeah, well, I was thinking of retiring and just wanted to know if you wanted to take over running Pendragon for me. you know and I'm glad. I was so glad it was a phone call, because like I was like doing this, like, are you kidding me? I'm like, yes, Greg, that sounds fine. Like, so that was in June, and so we started working together on that, and then of course, sadly he passed away just 4 months later. So it was a tremendous shock, and it's without the support of his household and all the folks at Chaosium, and his widow Suzanne, and everyone involved with the Pendragon line. I could not have done this on my own. But and of course he, as I say, he left us with so much material, and I had a good working relationship with him, and we understood each other pretty well. So I didn't want to have to say goodbye at that point, but I was able to kind of pick up where he had left off. So yeah, that's that story.
There you go. Well, thanks for sharing it. That is an amazing way to learn about it all. Um, I'd love to know. I mean, you talked about all of you sort of being a Gestalt consciousness of Greg's brain, but I'd love to know what some of the things that you think that as you go forward as a line editor for Pendragon, that you bring uniquely to the game. What's some of the aspects that you've been most excited about, or you've connected with the most as you've started working on the project as the lead?
Yeah. So what I bring in, I think is just an idea of like what makes this game engaging and fun. I've been playing Pendragon for almost 20 years, and like most longtime Pendragon players, I, have my ideas of like, what works, what could be improved upon, what are some of the classic, publications from years previous, and I've just found that I think Greg felt like my take on things was what he wanted to see out of the game. So mostly for myself, I just trust my instincts, when it comes to like, hey, that's a cool idea, we should definitely do that, or whatever, like we need to punch up this part of it, we need to make this a little bit more prominent. Like for example, we're doing a new version of the Great Pendragon campaign. It's just going to be a new edition. It's going to still be mostly Greg's stuff, but if for people familiar with that, which is the the Great Pendragon campaign. It gives you everything you need to run, you know, an 80-year campaign. Well, the very end of it, you know, with the Grail Quest and the Twilight period, it's a little bit rushed. You know, it's a little bit like, oh, and then there's a Grail Quest, and then everything kind of falls apart, and then Arthur dies. You know, and that could well be because Greg didn't want the story to end, so he was more content to spend a lot of time working on the earlier, you know, periods, right? But you know, I've said, you know, with this new edition, we need to have, like, the Grail Quest is one of the things you think about when it comes to, you know, the Arthurian cycle. So we need to really punch that up. So the, you know, that part of the revised GPC is going to have a lot of new material in it. You know, it's all grounded. This is the other thing that I bring, is that I think one of the strengths of Pendragon is that it is rooted in all this literary and storytelling tradition. So I'm not like saying, like, you know, let's just invent things out of whole cloth, you know, unless we absolutely have to. You know, what can we find in the medieval romances that we can bring in that we haven't seen yet? You know, what can we integrate? You know, so yeah, you know, like any editor, any line editor, you know, I'm the big picture guy, you know, and then it's all about delegating to people who are going to get down in the weeds, you know, and then actually crack open their medieval French romances, you know.
So 20 years is a, you know, a fantastic amount of time, real dedication to a game. Why Pendragon, can I ask? What was it that really caught you specifically about the Pendragon game?
Well, I think it's the same as with any folks who fall in love with the game, which is that it just has this alchemy about it, where you're dealing with these archetypes on the one hand. So like on a kind of like, you know, qualitative level, you're dealing with these sort of archetypal characters, but then on a quantitative level, on a mechanical level, the game encourages the player to just slip into those archetypes, you know, and through the trait and passion mechanic, you find yourself, again, like, even if you don't really know a whole lot about, you know, Chrétien de Troyes or Mallory or whoever, right? You know, you find yourself sort of going along with their story beats, you know, without even realizing it, because the traits and the passions sort of drive that game experience, and therefore you end up with these incredibly satisfying in-game experiences of triumph, tragedy. I've had more tears. This is going to sound bad at first, but I've had more tears shed at the table when I'm playing Pendragon. But they're good. They're tears of you know, sort of satisfaction, right? They're like, oh my god, that was so tragic. I love it. You know, like. So, I mean, people get really wrapped up in the game. It really pulls them in, and it's just so much fun to be a part of that. You know, I mean, some of my most lasting memories from all of gaming, I've been, you know, playing role-playing games for 30 years now, more than 30 years. And some of my most lasting memories are from Pendragon sessions.